What's up guys? We're back out here working on the Jon Boat and I'm super excited to show you what I've been working on. My main goal right now with the Jon Boat is getting it water ready so I can do some weight balance testing and also just see if there's any leaks or any major issues that need to be fixed before I completely build this thing out. The main thing I'm going to be focusing on in this video is something I see asked about a lot on forums and comment sections, and it's basically what to do with a leftover Livewell hole that was there from the factory. As you can see here, I have everything kind of torn apart. I'll go over what I've done so far to get to this point, but just to show you what I'm talking about is that there's a hole that goes through the bottom of the hull to have a gravity-fed Livewell. The way a gravity-fed system works is that you'll have a through-hull connection like this, then water comes up through the bottom of the hull until it fills up to the pipe, and then that's where it stops. For my purposes with this boat, I don't have a use for a Livewell, especially not taking up this much wonderful storage space that I could turn into something different. So what I've been trying to come up with is what I can do with this hole and that Livewell container to turn this into a functional dry storage. The first thing I had thought about doing was taking just an aluminum plate and either riveting it down or adhering it with some waterproof silicone and just covering the hole and calling it a day. But I also picked up a couple options here to see where I wanted to go. The first option I picked up was this straight through hull extender. This would actually allow me to turn this back into a gravity fed Livewell if I wanted to do that. I also bought a 1/2-inch universal plug. These are for oil drains, but this fit perfectly in the pipe size that this has. So this could be a temporary solution where this is run through the boat and then capped off with the drain plug. But if I'm trying to turn this into a dry storage or just maybe even a cooler, that was another option I had. The one thing I don't want to happen is this plug to get knocked out for any reason. So the other option I came up with is that I have this bulkhead fitting. This is a stainless steel bulkhead fitting, usually used for rain barrels, so you can connect a garden hose to it. What I thought was that I could run this from the bottom up into the hull, and then I could cap it off with a stainless steel screw-on cap with a washer. I thought that this would be a much more solid connection, that you could bump this around and you're not gonna knock this cap off. For one, it's screwed on, and two, it's gonna be much more low profile. The only thing I wasn't too thrilled about with this connection, when this is sitting on the bottom of the hull, it's gonna have pretty rigid lines here, and if you see normal through-hull connections, they're kind of rounded off. So while this one will be much shorter, so it should get less drag that way, I was thinking about taking this over to my bench grinder and just rounding out all the edges here to make it much more smooth for water flow. So out of all the options I've come up with here, I'm pretty sure that this is the one I'm gonna try to do. I will have all of this linked in the description, so you guys can kind of pick and choose which options you wanna go with. To make sure everything fits up right, I picked up this step drill bit. I think this is gonna make everything much easier to do. Removing the Livewell itself was extremely easy. We came through and removed all of the screws, and then to finish removing the Livewell, you actually have to remove the lid, which connects with the same screws on the hinge. Once the lid came off, the Livewell pulled right up and we were good to go. All right, so the first thing I need to do before I really work on this is clean this hole up. That way when we install this, I'm also gonna use a little bit of 3M silicone. That way we know that this is a perfectly watertight seal, even though this does come with gaskets. These gaskets are probably fine. They're a little bit more rigid than I was expecting, so I just wanna make sure that we have a liquid sealant. That way I know for sure that this isn't gonna leak once we get this installed. And also, I won't lie, I'm really excited to try out these new wire wheels that I got. They are super thick, which makes grinding away paint and cleaning up areas much easier than those really thin ones I had. Hopefully it works as expected. We'll see, but if it does work out good, I'll throw a link in the description so you guys can try it out. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do here is go ahead and clean up this top hole. Oh wow, that looks great. This thing worked awesome. There's a little bit of corrosion around here. It's really not too bad. This is nice and thick still. It's just some pitting along the top. But this is also a good example of why this should also be a maintenance item, of replacing and redoing the silicone on your through-hull fittings after they've been sitting for a very long time. This hull was made in the 90s, so at this point it's about 30-something years old. Boy, that really makes me feel old. But aside from that, that means that this silicone and this whole setup has been sitting here for about 30 years. So this is just gonna be slightly too small. I'm gonna go ahead and use my step bit here to just slightly enlarge this hole. Okay, so at this point, it will just thread through. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up this bottom ridge here. I'll show you guys how I do that, and then we can start getting a test fit up and put into place. Okay, so now I do have a bench grinder that I use to like sharpen lawnmower blades, but I wanted to try this out first because this has worked really well when doing kind of fine detail work like this. But basically, I just have my portable sander here hooked up in a vise. I'm gonna go ahead and try and smooth down the edges on this here. That did a great job smoothing that out. It's not dramatic yet, but that's really good. I'm gonna keep working on that and see how smooth we can get it. I need to leave a little meat on it, obviously, for the connection itself and to have threads to kind of lock this in place, but overall, that's already much better. Okay, yeah, this is really rounding out nice. And again, this is still gonna sit pretty flush, so I don't know how much of an impact this is gonna make, but it's making me feel better. All right, at this point, it is looking much rounder on all edges. I don't know if this is ever gonna make a difference, but to me, it looks a lot nicer and a little bit more water dynamic, hydrodynamic maybe. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so in getting this prepped for reinstallation, I went ahead and washed it out and cleaned it the best I could. Also, it was covered in mouse poop, so I didn't want to be working around that. So again, from the bottom, it gets the softer washer. I'm gonna screw this in from the bottom, and then we're gonna cap it off with the other washer and the nut, and then the cap. Okay, I got a couple screws in here just to make sure everything stays in place. I'm gonna go ahead under there now and see if I can screw this in. Now we got the tube in on this side. I'm gonna put the washer down. And then the locking nut. Now this is how all through-hole connections would basically get installed. The only difference is what kind of materials and the sizes that you're using. If you were going to be reinstalling a gravity-fed Livewell, all you would do is install the appropriate through-hole connection, and then you would have the second piece that connects into that allows your water to come in. Here's our cap. This was my idea, was to cap this off with that. And then essentially that would be installed in a waterproof setup. Now, once this is installed completely, I'm not gonna worry about this getting knocked around because this is a really solid connection. And for draining into the boat, I think what I was gonna do is actually just drill a hole in the Livewell right where the channels are here, and then just use a simple plug. That way I can pull the plug out. This would drain into the boat and then out through the back of the boat when I'm done on the water. I don't have plans to be using this as a Livewell or a cooler right off the start, so I'm not too worried about that. The main thing I want is a waterproofed seal that I can use this for dry storage and also boat testing. All right, so at this point, I accomplished what I was looking to do. I got the new through-hull fitting set up, and it's gonna be a waterproof connection that's also easily removable in case I wanna replace it with a gravity-fed Livewell system or cap it off and use it as a drain. In the beginning of the video, I showed you a couple different options on how you can repair yours, either through a drain with a simple drain plug, a through-hull connection with a capped-off plug, or replacing it with an actual gravity Livewell setup. At this point, I think that I have mine set up enough that I can take the boat out in the water to test it out. And then when I'm fully ready to put it back together, I'm gonna be using the silicone as I mentioned. At this point, I still have plans on what I wanna do around the Livewell, such as installing things in the seat here or running wires and whatnot. So I don't wanna fully secure this back into the boat without being able to test this on the water first. Plus, if there ends up being any issues that are unforeseen and I need to get to this area, I also don't wanna use silicone until the Livewell is going back in for the last time. In the next video, I'm gonna show you guys how I completely restored this outboard mounting plate that goes on the back here for when we install the new outboard. At that point, we'll be ready to take the boat out for its first test run to see how weight balance is, find any major leaks or problems, and then we can get started on the major rebuild. If you guys want to see more videos like this and follow along the Jon Boat Build, don't forget to subscribe. I got a lot of great videos coming out for this and more throughout the year. Thanks for watching.